Thank you for the question. I review the budget of the region every year. I pulled out my copy of the current budget to determine what the impact of a 5 to 7% tax loss actually meant. The property tax revenue was budgeted at $9,850,000 this year. A 5 to 7% tax loss is basically between $500,000 to $700,000. The tax concession agreement with Bowater in December 2011 reduced the Bowater municipal taxes for the mill location and Brooklyn Energy from almost $900,000 to about $765,000, a reduction of $135,000. Provincial Government Bill number 133, which passed the legislature on December 15, 2011, contains clause number 16, whereby this $135,000 reduction is eliminated once the mill site is idled for a period of 6 months. The mill ceased production on June 15th. If the mill is not soon sold, Bowater will likely apply for an assessment reduction. Buildings will not disappear overnight, but an assessment reduction of 50% is very possible. On that basis, Bowater taxes in 2013 would be reduced to approximately $450,000. The 2013 difference from existing 2012 taxes would be a tax loss of approximately $315,000. Increased events can be held year-round in Queen's Place and Mirror Centre, with additional revenue of approximately $115,000 being possible. The remaining tax loss of approximately $200,000 will need to be replaced through a detailed budget review, identified efficiencies, and taxes from construction of new residential and commercial properties. Through positive efforts, hard work, and wise future decisions by council and staff, the region can continue to live within its means without a tax increase for a Bowater tax loss in 2013. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
You know, one of the truisms is that when a new council is sworn in on November the 1st, it has the old council's budget to live with for 6 months. During that time, we will have an opportunity to examine every line in the budget. I think what we need to do is go back to zero-based budgeting, making sure that every program earns its way and is important to the people of Queens. There are some programs there that were in place when I became mayor in 1996. I can't believe that they still are useful to us. We have to look at each one and say, does it help us to achieve our goal? Because, as I indicated, we have to set goals as council, and we've got to make sure that the programs support those goals. I think that we need to look, too, at the amount of money that we're spending on economic development. It's a small sum when you compare it with the amount that we spend on recreation. I think we may need to adjust our priorities as we go into this new post-Bowater era. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. As in other years, but especially in 2013 and 2014, we'll have to look at every aspect of our budget to see where the savings can be made. There are some projects that have to be completed. The Brooklyn Sewer and Water Project, for instance, that is correcting an environmental problem. There are projects and programs that may have to be put on hold until the economy recovers, and I am sure it will. We have been in this situation before, and working together have survived, and I know we will again as a municipal unit. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mervyn.
Merv should have, and both Dave could have indicated to you that when I entered 4 years ago, we were talking about the possibilities and the losses at the mill site. We already had started to look at and adjust programs and income because we had lost Nova Scotia Light and Power, and in 3 years it was that tax was bottom lined. And then we knew that Bowater's was dropping. Thankfully this year we got their $800,000. So our budget is right on line and everything's following through. Chris should have clearly told you that the recreation budget includes many other things besides straight recreation. And all of you know, or most of you should, my past as a phys ed teacher, I will fight tooth and nail to keep recreation in place. We're having enough trouble with our kids and our fitness and adults and kids to mess with that. Money can be found. Anyway, getting past that, like I said, we adapted to some of the losses. We would look at budget items just as Merv said, and as we always do every year, and we sit down and we have a full discussion with the full council, and everybody has an input. Of course we don't always get what we want, and of course we don't get that favorite project. But when you work together with people, you come to a consensus. And our council this 4 years, as far as I've seen, has been very consensus-oriented. And as mayor, one of the things I will do is continue what I did with District 3, is have community meetings and have them all the time, because I don't want to tell you I'm the sharpest tack in the drawer or the sharpest knife, because there's many of you out there that do me in anytime you want. What I am going to be is a coordinator of good ideas and make them work. Thank you.
Thanks, Owen. Fantastic asset for Region Queens Municipality. However, it is currently impacting the general tax rate by approximately $187,000. How do the candidates propose to approach realizing true potential of Queens Place? And did you guys pick an order for this, or is it just the river? Oh, no, okay, good. Mervyn?
Queens Place and Mayoral Center is going through growing pains. I doubt that there's any person in this room, I being one of them, that realized what the finished product was going to be. The true potential of Queens Place will be realized through the different programs that can take place there. The previous council has always represented Queens Place not only as a rink and a fitness center, but a venue for arts, the entertainment industry, and trade shows. The major events that are already in the works will show the rest of the province and beyond that we are capable. Show the rest of the province on what we are capable of. Thank you.
Thanks, Mervyn.
Queen's Place is truly something we should be proud of. I suspect, though, we're going to have a significant job to make it break even. I would argue with the $187,000, as I looked at the account, I think that the budgeted deficit is over $250,000. However, I look on it as an economic driver. I think there are so many opportunities there, but I think it behooves all of us to make sure that Queen's Place gives value to everyone in Queens, not just to us in South Queens. I wonder about its governance. It seems to be closely controlled by council and by staff. I think the skill sets required to run a facility such as that are very different than those that are required to run a municipality. I would look towards trying to develop either an advisory council or a board for Queen's Place to put it more at arm's length. There's been criticism in the community of the place being idle during the summer months. I think the skills required to fill a place like Queen's Place 12 months a year are very challenging. You need certain skills to run the ice, the hockey part of it, and very different skills to run it as a entertainment and event center during the summer, during the rest of the year. Do we have the right skills in our staff there? I think that we must open it up to community groups on a much wider base. Sure, it may mean foregoing some revenue, but much of the money for Queen's Place was donated by you people. So I think it behooves us to make sure that it is available to community groups and volunteer groups at a reasonable price. I say that I'm concerned about the rent that's being charged to a youth group that operates out of it, which is $10,000 a year.
Thanks, Chris.
I don't know about any of you, but before the building opened, there was a lot of cynicism. There was a lot of upset. And I was part of that, even though I was totally in favor of the building. But to diss it is not my style. Over there is one of the biggest pieces of infrastructure that the region of Queens has ever been involved in. Look at the top price. And it's not finished yet. There are so many things possibilities that it's opening to us. I go around the province, people are jealous of Queens once again. We did something, and it may not happen again, a building of that nature and the type and style that it is. So the first thing you should all do is go, phew, and we've got it, and it's only cost us this much. It's on budget, by the way. Just like our budget for Queens is on budget. So there's been no change in what was presented to the public for its cost. Now, getting to the operation, yes. There's many things that need to change to make it the best all-around center that there is. Maybe one of those things, and I'll say it here because I, as mayor, will be looking strongly at it, we'll add that swimming pool because people do want the pool, and it is a part of our healthcare system. So I'm not saying that to get your vote. I'm telling you a fact, and if you know me, I'm telling you what I mean and what will take place. We did not raise as much money from the public as you think. We got it from large businesses, and we got it from 2 levels of government and your level of government. Yes, some of your tax went into it. But we still have that great big band that could be attacked. The hospital will be paid for. I think now it's moved from 20 beds to, how many? 22, I mean, down to what?
It's 14 temporary.
No, I mean when it opens. There'll be 22 beds. So that opportunity for being part of the healthcare system is there. One of the things Chris mentioned is true. We always need to look at how it's managed. And yes, any of you that saw what was the rink, which is no more, that was a simple operation. One piece of ice, 3 rooms to work. Anyway, I think we've got a lot more we can do over there, and I'll be part of that anyway. Thank you.
Thanks, Owen.
Thank you. Queens Place and Mirror Center is a wonderful and important asset to the region of Queens. It provides healthy recreation to residents and visitors and will serve as a strong marketing tool to encourage new employers and families to move to Queens County. Good hospitals, schools, fire departments, business, and recreational facilities are a must in this competitive world. The $180,000 for Queens Place represents 2.5 cents of the current tax rate. Additional funding is also sourced from the budget of the region of Queens. The recent purchase of an ice covering, stage, and 1,200 chairs will allow events to be held all during the year. Aggressive marketing must be developed to utilize Queens Place to the maximum extent possible. Additional events will increase revenue and attract visitors to Queens. Spin-off dollars to local motels, stores, and restaurants from this increased usage will improve local cash flows. The efforts of the Chamber of Commerce and the region to support Events Liverpool, the accomplishment of securing Music Week, and junior curling are just the beginning of our journey towards success. Queens Place has the potential to become a significant economic generator. Opportunities exist to provide additional events, and I am of the opinion that a public consultation process will be necessary to identify all future possibilities. While I have my own thoughts on specific future events, residents collectively will need to be heard during this process. Queens Place belongs to the citizens of the region, and together we must wisely chart its future direction. Thank you.
I have been enormously impressed with the work of the Revitalization Committee that comprises representation from the South Queens Board of Trade and from the region of Queens. And there's been a tremendous upsurge in community support and mobilizing the talents of our community. I think that is one of the things that is going to lead us into the promised land. I am very supportive of an arts council and an arts centre. Whether we put it in the town hall, which is one of the thoughts that have been advanced, whether we find another location for it, do something else with the town hall, which is not being utilized, in my opinion, as fully as it should be. We've got to really work hard to support our tourism industry and grow it, and I think the development of festivals is certainly going to make a mark, and as Donna Hatt would say, we need to become the events capital of Nova Scotia. We would invest heavily in economic development. We might even have to dip in our reserves. John Leaf mentioned at a council meeting the other day that the region has $7 million in reserves. Well, I always look on reserves as being useful when there's a rainy day, and I can't think of anything much rainier than at the present time. I've not given up any hope of the Bowater plant. There are so many assets there that I'm sure someone will come and find a use for it. As mayor, I would work very, very closely with anyone who wants to work with us through that Bowater plant and utilize those assets. Thank you.
As I had said earlier, and Chris alluded to those initiatives that are taking place, and they started, as I mentioned earlier, before the closing. That's just made it more of an important item to deal with. So we need to finish that and get the recommendations in place and to act on them. And we do need a stronger tourism product. We haven't made use of our history in this area and the value of it to other people to enjoy. I always have the personal pleasure of getting on tour buses and talking to people and taking them through town. And when they're finished, they always say, well, how come we didn't know about this before you took us off the road? Well, of course, they're not going to tell them that we're hijacking them with muskets and scaring the hell out of some of them. And we have done that, by the way, not knowingly, of course. But anyway, that needs to be developed and can be. And it won't take a great deal of money to do the product itself. What's going to take the money is the marketing and deciding how we're going to do that, whether it's all through Destination Southwest Nova or through the Nova Scotia Government Tourism Department or on our own. It's like our economic office. Even though we belong to the RDA along with the Lunenburg County area, we still have our own economic development business. And I think that's been important to keep Queens at the forefront. Underutilized place, the North Queens site where the fair is, one of the oldest sites in Nova Scotia. And I'm sure it's the oldest because I'm the Heritage Committee and I know that they are getting 2 plaques out there because they sit on the original site and it's the only one. But it's like our Queen's Place, only older. It needs some development or somebody to decide. I think there's many activities that could go on out there. Being close to the National Park and the biosphere, there's got to be a lot of things that they can do. And the Board of Trade is becoming active there, like our South Queens Chamber. So it's going to take all of us, and it's going to take those ideas to get on the table. Thank you.
Just have to look at the Vizio moves first.
Thank you. The future economic viability of the region of Queens depends upon positive change and progress. We are no longer a one-employer area, and employment diversification is desirable. Cooperation is required between our municipal government, residents, and our business communities to allow that to happen. I support an open government that seeks the opinion of its citizens to benefit both North and South Queens. We can support creation of local jobs and reverse outward migration. Our focus must be to actively and selectively target prospective employers to entice them to create jobs in the region of Queens. Existing employers will also require our support to expand and succeed. In addition to the transition team and Queens Revitalization Committee efforts, residents and business leaders have valuable ideas which will bear fruit if identified and pursued. We need to locate individuals outside the county who are considering starting a business but have not selected a location. Local tourism has suffered from the loss of the Yarmouth Ferry. We must work towards replacement of a Yarmouth ferry to benefit our economy. Queen's Place can and will be aggressively marketed for more events. With new rental accommodation facilities being constructed, the ability to encourage retirees from outside of the area to relocate to Queens County will now be possible. Assisted living facilities for seniors, additional capacity for long-term care facilities, immigration, educational facilities, and relocation of provincial government service jobs to Queens are all important initiatives to pursue. We must embrace new business opportunities to succeed. Thank you.
I do think that my greatest asset to help create a vibrant economy for the region is my 40 years of experience in dealing with real estate agents, lawyers, surveyors, development officers, building inspectors, contractors, Nova Scotia Power, and most provincial departments. I have been a part of every kind of construction, from laying out cemetery plots to a $160 million expansion of at the Bowater Mersey site as site surveyor. I have worked with large construction companies and engineering firms from across the province and has gained their respect. This, combined with 20 years of experience as a municipal councillor, I know that as mayor, I can assist any developer, large or small, that may want to create a business anywhere in the region. Council, through our economic development and tourism departments, our planning department, and our engineering department, are willing to work with any developer or entrepreneur needing assistance in the region. As mayor, I will continue to support that practice. Thank you. This is the hardest question for me. I've been a part of past discussions to locate a vocational campus in our region. Past efforts by the Lunenburg campus failed because of a lack of participation. Times have changed. People want to be retrained. The time is right to lobby all government departments to create a post-secondary facility in the region. I will make sure that this problem stays on the table and do what I can to follow through on the efforts that have already been started. Thank you.
Thank you. When I was mayor, we started an initiative with Munson Vincent, with Sheila Brown as the president, and with the community college to try and bring post-secondary education to Queens, that we turn that initiative over to the new council. I would, and I don't think an awful lot has really happened, and I don't say that critically, because I think Mervyn was right when he talked about the difficulty in getting people to enroll in post-secondary education. I think that we need to have a real sort of education, communication blitz to encourage people to take that education. We can't just do it on a one-shot basis. We've got to keep talking about it. It's the old story, if it's worth saying, say it often. I would look to putting together a committee of academics and former teachers, perhaps who are better in this field than someone like myself who has not been an educator. Use the talents. There are a lot of retired people who have skills that they could offer for this. But the other thing that's going to happen too is there will be a significant teaching component at Queen's General. So that will be helping us in the future in the health disciplines. So I think it's going to take a lot of work, a lot of encouraging people, and really egging people on to get that extra education. I think we can do it. The community college seems willing. I've talked to them. They seem keen to come here and work with us. But it's going to take a lot of work together. Thank you.
I have to tell you, like Merv, the only thing is I think I have a little more time in education than Merv, is that it's a tough one to answer. We're in a very small county. I took courses. I tried to get them here to teach. We had buildings. We had places to put them. The only savior for this whole thing for me, as I researched the question and tried to, I think, get a sensible answer, the sensible answer is this is 21st century. Even I, with my limited computer skills, type in whatever I want and whoo, up it pops. So what we have to do is coordinate the visual and the actual building or people into something that will work. It hasn't worked to try to get a site built or rented. It hasn't worked because the professors don't want to come beyond Bridgewater and we don't have a closer place. And the budgets in all those places have always been the end result. When we've got, I remember about 9 years ago, we had one all set up to go in to the building right above us, and it fell through because at the last minute the professor said, well, I'm not taking that extra half hour, especially this winter. So what it'll take is another, and Chris alluded to it, is a fuller look at the roundabout way of solving that problem. It's not unsolvable, but it'll, like I said, the 21st century is more important to me than the past. The past way of doing things in education is rapidly changing. Thank you.
Post-secondary education can exist in many different formats. Facilities to provide academic skill upgrading to achieve grade 12 GED equivalency level are important. The ability to access an extension service of an accredited university to provide specific home learning programs can be a benefit to others. The medical-related training potential of our hospital, as well as internet technology home-based business in Queens, can be supported and increased. Training facilities are presently required locally, especially community college programs. In addition to these programs, specific fields of study and research are well positioned to be attracted to situate within all areas of the region of Queens. Academic jobs are sustainable and well-paying and foster development of supporting industry. The Mersey Tobiatic Research Institute in Kempt is doing excellent scientific research. Local arts and culture can progress to become a major academic educational center. We have a wealth of opportunities due to our close proximity to the forest, ocean, and agricultural lands. Queens County is diversified in our natural environments, and that is a major attractant to those in the academic world. Our climate is unique, lending additional opportunities. Aboriginal clam middens at Port Jolly and artifacts collected on the Mersey River open the door to archaeological research and related support facilities as well. It is my intention to work collaboratively with council, staff, business leaders, citizens, and the academic community to further expand and achieve the full potential of the region of Queens to attract as many post-secondary facilities as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
I had about 15 questions come in, so I've given them to Colleen. She just handed me one here, so I'm reading it really, and the candidates are hearing it for the first time. As mayor, how do you plan to connect to and engage the younger population in Queens so that people of all ages and walks of life are presented well? So let me read that again. As mayor, how do you plan to connect to and engage the younger population in Queens so that people of all ages and walks of life are represented well? Sorry.
Okay, well, I'm going to start this. Mervyn, you're up first.
You want the question?
I guess when we talk about the engagement of the young people, the municipality, anyone of us that is mayor has to look at what we're going to do to help the young people. We've had presentations of skateboard parks. We've had presentations for outdoor basketball. We've built right now we have a coasting hill at Queen's Place. We have a walking trail. I think the only way to get the children engaged is get to the parents first, get them outdoors, and make them active. And I think that if we do that, we have to maybe work from the parents down. But I think if we do that, we'll get engagement from the kids, and they'll look after themselves. Thank you.
Thanks, Mervyn. Okay, Chris. I like this part.
I think we're enormously fortunate in the number of volunteers we have at the school. I understand that there's about 10% of the school are in the Key Club that's run by the Kiwanis Club, so that group is already engaged. I think the high achievers are not the ones that are hard to engage. It's the ones who don't do as well It's going to be an enormous challenge. It's been a challenge in the past. I like the idea of a skateboard park. I'm not sure where the $750,000 will come from, but maybe we don't need to build a Rolls Royce. Maybe a Cadillac will do. It's going to take a lot of work, and it's really getting back, as Mervyn says, to the parents. But there's no magic answer, but obviously I would work as hard as I could to do what we could with the parents and with the schools in that regard.
Thank you, Chris. Owen?
Unlike seniors, we're dealing with a shrinking population. And having worked with youth, you sometimes can't weigh what they say. You have to try and interpret what they mean. And they will figure it out, but they need more time. And adults sometimes aren't the ones to straighten out that thought process. Now, when the skateboard thing came up years ago, you remember on the Rossignol grounds what happened to it. Those don't happen now. Kids have changed from being the drug part of the culture, doing those skateboarding and surfboarding and all that stuff, to the best kids. So now we have a different product to work with. When Chris says he doesn't think $750,000 or $250,000, I've seen 17 of them. 9 of them can I use the term half-assed? I will. Half-assed built, so you spend $10,000 and about 6 months later, you're going to spend another $10,000. I looked at the one in Chester, which is the only one with stainless steel rails and stainless. They tell me that's the Cadillac of them all, and they did it through their district office money and recreation money and money raised and donated. We aren't lucky to have a foundation like they have there in Chester to give them a quarter of that money right from the get-go. But I prefer to look at it and make sure that it works. First of all, it's the most dangerous thing afoot right now. You can actually break a leg. They don't mean it in the way actors do. It's the danger of poor equipment. But we have had a presentation. We have a group interested, and I'm sure council is looking to take this further down the road, because it's not just skateboards, it's a whole bunch of things that we have to engage youth with. Schools have given up on fitness, and they've given up on a lot of programs, so society is going to have to do it for them. And that's, I think, where we have to take that long view. Thank you.
Thanks, Owen. And David, I won't forget you.
Thank you for the question. It's a good one. It's been my opinion, and still is, that youth needs to be busy, their mind needs to be active, and they need to be out doing physical exercise. Queen's Place is an excellent opportunity to fulfill a part of that day. There are programs ongoing at Queen's Place, and I think the region of Queens can work towards expanding those. As municipal government, it is incumbent upon the mayor and council and staff to foster opportunities within the region that assist its youth and elderly senior citizens. We can look at various programs. We have the environment, we have science, we have education. Additionally, there are programs out there such as Learn to Fish, where young children can be taken out through the provincial program and have a day of fishing and become an experienced person in that field and see if they actually have an enjoyment for that. Lunenburg County initiated a genealogy program where seniors would help children search for their roots, and it gathered a lot of interest. There are probably many, many more opportunities in the region of Queens that I haven't thought of, and others in the audience would. So I believe it would be incumbent upon the incoming council and staff to look at opportunities in this regard and go to the public for input and proceed in an orderly fashion. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Thank you for that question. Certainly I support the work of the arts and culture people, the volunteers. Certainly there have been great strides and improvements made. Only to look at the International Theatre Festival speaks well for what goes on in Queens County. As far as the location of the Old Town Hall, I'm sure everyone's aware there is a lease on that property with Sherman Hines until 2016. I do not know the terms and conditions of that lease, and therefore, as a legal agreement, one needs to be considerate of the fact that it may not be attainable as any other operation until 2016. Having said that, as mayor, I would be prepared to sit down with representatives of the arts and culture community and Mr. Hines and see where things may go forward, if there's an agreement to be reached, and perhaps Mr. Hines is prepared to relinquish the lease. I do not know that at this time, but I would be prepared to work with all parties to reach a resolve, because I do think it is a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Owen?
Having been on council and had the presentation, certainly none of us will say we don't need an arts center and an arts council in place. I'd like it in place and let them look at all the options first instead of picking one option. The reason I say that, of course, is David mentioning that till 2016 we're tied up, and we are. It's a tight one, and whether we like it or not, that's it. Had the people who had this idea gelled it a little sooner, then it would have become a debate. Certainly I can do exactly what David mentioned, only I can even do it easier because I lived with him. He at least talked to me for 5 minutes, then he'll dismiss me. So you have to get used to that with Sherman. He has a unique way about him. But yes, the Arts Center is a needed thing. We have so many artists. Why shouldn't we be looking at a place? I just don't think, even if we had a way to break the lease or it got broken, I think that the part of this building would be more advantageous to the Winds of Change, period, and the theater, because it's not that large a space. When I picture people with easels or people doing sculpture and artwork of all kinds. So I think we should look and keep looking and pull together a group and study it even more than they had. Thank you.
Thanks, Owen. Chris?
As I said, I'm in favour of, well, I said I didn't think the town hall was being used to its best purpose, and I really believe that. I listened to Susan Lane say this morning, and she was right, that how vibrant the town used to be when this was an active building, when the town hall was an active building, when its lights are on, and so it was a focus of the town. I think we've got to work towards that again. We've got to make sure that it is used on a continuous basis, and obviously we have to work together with the Winds of Change, but I don't think that's the only answer. I've heard a number of different ways of perhaps handling the town hall, from small sort of art boutiques to a true art centre. There is a legitimate question as to whether it's large enough for an art centre, but if it isn't, we still have got to work hard to find a better use for it. Now, I know Sherman Hines very well. He's been a good friend of mine for about 50 years. I think one can talk to Sherman, and he has the well-being of the community at heart. Otherwise, he wouldn't have the Rosignol Centre and the Photographic Museum here. So I think we can work around that, talk to him. Yes, I'm very supportive. Yes, we've got to find another use for the town hall, and yes, we've got to find a place for an arts centre and an arts council.
Thank you, Chris. Irvin?
I guess maybe it's easy to say yes. I agree with all the rest, and I do agree with all the rest. I think, and Owen referred to a meeting that we had with the group, and Mr. Hines happened to be there. And I think at the time, or I left that meeting feeling that if everyone got together with Mr. Hines, and if it was a beneficial thing to everybody, it would happen. And I do agree, the town hall is a perfect place for an arts center. I found over the last couple of weeks, going around to the different fairs, the talent here is just unbelievable. And we do definitely need a place for it. But I still think that if we get together with Mr. Hines, as Chris has said, he's I've known him for 50 years too. And I think that I think we can work together and work something out with him. Thank you.
I think most of them know me, and some of them know why I'm here. I've heard very, very little tonight about how you intend to treat your seniors. And I think that's a big part of this community. We have a lot of vibrant seniors in this community, most of whom are property owners, so it's the bulkier tax rate. And we've been fighting at Queen's Manor for 10 years with the council to get a sidewalk for safety reasons up to the manor. It's a public street. They're entitled. You can put sidewalks everywhere else, and you can even tear up sidewalks on Main Street and replace them that don't really need repairs. And I would like to know how these candidates feel about that. We've done our traffic surveys. It's a safety issue, and we need a sidewalk to go up.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, the order to answer this question will be Owen, Chris, Mervyn, and David.
We have had this discussion, so you're not going to be surprised when you hear what I say. I told her, and when council was presented with this twice, and once that I had a vote on it, when I see the seniors get off of Park Street onto the sidewalk, I might be the first to get in line and say it's time to put a sidewalk up to the manor. There are many reasons why not to spend our tax-paying money on that, even though seniors, and by the way, you weren't obviously listening when I said how we were going to use the hospital as part of what we do. That means that people from 55 to that pie in the sky time, and it also means Queen's Place being a better facility and more useful to all of us, especially seniors. But we don't have a sidewalk up the most important street for me, Old Port Mattoon Road, to the elementary school. And that's a fight with the provincial government, or it was at the time. And the manor is not slated. They've tried to get an expansion. It's not going to happen. That building will be gone. So putting a sidewalk at this stage after 10 years and another 5 to get it done or get it cost shared. And there were engineering problems with it. And I'll let Merv tell you. He can give you the exact engineering problems about why the sidewalk doesn't work. And the truckers can tell you why they can't use that road if you put a sidewalk there. Thank you.
Thank you, Owen. Next up, Chris.
Hey, I'm in favor of doing lots for seniors. You can't do enough for us. And Jean, you just heard an answer that's part of the culture of no. There's no real justification apart from the fact it's going to cost money for not putting a sidewalk up there. Yes, it's going to cost money, but seniors now are more mobile. There are more of these electric wheelchairs, more walkers, and so on. So if I'm mayor, and now remember that I'm only one vote in 8, but I will work aggressively to try and get at least a majority on council to vote for that sidewalk.
Thank you, Chris. Mervyn?
Kind of echoing what Owen has said, it's a project that we've looked at least 3 times. I've looked at it 3 times just by going up there and walking it. And I would suggest that anybody that thinks what we're saying, that it's expensive, should go up there and actually walk the terrain and see the slope, the side slopes, and the stuff that exists there already. And we've had engineering studies done, and they've all come back. It's a lot of money. And if times were good and we could afford it, it would be done. But you have to look at what the taxpayer has to pay too. I feel very proud of Queen's Place. I have to say, my name's actually on the board of directors on the wall because I was one of the first board of directors up there and helped choose some of the paint. But there's some things that you can do and some things that you can't do because of monetary objections. So anyway, that's my opinion. If it could be affordable, it could be done. But it's the affordability.
Thank you, Mervyn. David.
Thank you. As mayor, it would be my expectation to see a new and enlarged and modernized Queen's Manor located somewhere else. That would eliminate the need for sidewalks, which appear to be problematic, It would also allow additional room for more residents, which I think we dearly need. One must also not lose sight of the fact that we have some seniors housing in that area that may also benefit from a shorter sidewalk. So not having had the ability to read and look at all of the previous work of council, I can only tell you that it would be an issue that I would strongly look at. If it were possible over the next few years, I would like to see it done. My focus would be a larger, increased size Queens Manor facility built in the county. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Gentleman on the left.
With all the talk about bringing business to Queens, I would like to know the attitude of all the candidates on Cook aquaculture coming to Queens.
Okay, the order for this one will be Chris, Mervyn, David, and Owen.
I'm very pleased to be the first person to have an opportunity to answer that, because I have worked hard with the Friends of Port Mattoon Bay for quite some years to, first of all, to fight the expansion of the existing fish farm, which resulted in the moratorium, which I think was brought about by political means more than any other way. And now the Friends of Port Mattoon Bay would dearly love to get that existing fish farm out of there, that it had been allowed to be fallow for 3 years. The site was starting to recover, young lobsters were starting to come in, some eelgrass was also coming in, and now that's being jeopardized by this new crop of fish. The goal of the Friends of Port Mattoon Bay is to eliminate that fish farm from Port Mattoon Bay entirely. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, Mervyn.
Some time ago, we had a resolution that went from our council, because actually fish farming falls under the provincial and federal government. I'd just like to read that the Council of the Region of Queens Municipality send a letter to the Minister of Fisheries and Aquaculture, reaffirming its concern for the future of Port Mattoon Bay and fish farming in the area, and further request that before any decision is made to renew, alter, or grant new aquaculture licenses in Port Mattoon Bay, that a full and open public hearings be held in the area affected, including presentations by provincial scientists and to address community concerns, and further that this letter be forwarded to the Premier, the Queen's MLA, and leaders of the provincial opposition. I voted for that motion, and it still stands. Thank you.
Thank you, Mervyn. David.
Thank you for the question. I have been in Queens County Fish and Game Association for over 35 years. All 35 years have been in environmental issues. I do appreciate the work of the Friends of Port Mattoon Bay. I have exchanged numerous amounts of scientific information with them. They are doing very good work. As far as aquaculture goes, there is a place in this world for aquaculture. There is no place in Port Mattoon Bay for fish fin aquaculture. The bay does not flush. The poop is on the bottom to an extent where it should not be there, and it's impacting on the beaches, the provincial parks, the federal parks. We have a problem in that bay, and it is unfortunate that we are now at a position where the province is at odds with a license for Cook aquaculture. For those of you in the world of precedent, you do understand that the provincial government is reluctant to terminate a lease, because then the floodgates open all through the province. It would be certainly better for all if Cook Aquaculture were willing to withdraw, or the actual aquaculture operator were willing to withdraw the lease for Port Mattoon Bay. I do not wish, if I were mayor, to see that lease for aquaculture continue in Port Mattoon Bay and be fished. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Owen?
I too voted for that motion, against it, and I do want to thank the people out there, especially Darlene Norman and her crew, for being persistent and sticking with it. I also think, as David does, There is a place for agriculture all over the world. Big businesses doing it everywhere. Our government gave them $25 million after all Cook. So it's not something they're going to get rid of lightly, not just because of the lease, but because of the kind of investment you as taxpayers have allowed our provincial government to put money forward. Closed cage, there's a bunch of things. I wish that David had more time, because he has more of the information than any of us, and he's quite right when he says he's environmentally concerned. Ever since I've known him, he's been environmentally concerned, and in this case, he's entirely right. Most the northern European countries are heading to land-based, where they put back pure water just like we do from our recycling system. And it is a danger, but Portman Bay, everybody knows it doesn't flush. I'm not even a fisherman. I just have them tell me very clearly that it doesn't. If you go out, you can see it doesn't. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello. Good evening. I recently moved back, been living away for 9 years, and one of my first experiences moving back is a safety issue. Actually, both of these, it's an A and B, if you don't mind. I almost got hit in the crosswalk between the post office and across to the Bank of Nova Scotia. Luckily, I was paying attention because the driver wasn't, and I could have reached out, touched his car, and he said he was sorry. Just wondering if this is going to be revisited for traffic lights, but of course lights that work properly and are censored so that people are not waiting a long time. B, in the second safety issue, when I left 9 years ago, there was a rail on either side of the sidewalks on the bridge. One of the first things I did notice when I came back, those rails were gone, and I felt very unsafe. I can see children falling out, seniors falling out. Also, as not just a pedestrian, but as someone who drives a vehicle across, you have to watch for this. Accidents can happen very easily. Wondering what is going to be done, if anything, if this is going to be revisited as well. These are two safety issues that I think are very important, and I know I'm not the isolated case at the crosswalk. There have been several that have told me. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. The order for answering this question will be Mervyn, David, Owen, and then Chris.
As far as your first question regarding street lights, traffic lights at the post office, I don't think you'll see it in my time as mayor. It can be looked at. It's been looked at quite a bit. The systems that is there isn't perfect, but I can assure you that at the time when the lights were there, it's working a whole lot better than it did when it's working better as a four-way stop, a three-way stop as it ever did the street lights. To your second question, yes, as mayor, I do believe I walk the Trestle Trail at least 3 times a week, and I have to go across the bridge the way we go, and I feel exactly the same way as you do. But there is something that we should be doing about it. When the rail was gone, the question came up, and I think at that time we probably felt that there has to be a time period to have it looked at, to see what was really going on and how much we could actually squeeze things together, because it's a very small space and there's some big trucks that travel there. But yes, as mayor, I will definitely have it looked after again.
Thank you, Mervyn. David?
Thank you for the question. There is an issue at the post office to the Bank of Nova Scotia crosswalk. There have been many close calls. Streetlights on that intersection may not actually be the best solution, but we need a solution. And I would suggest that we should be looking at a crosswalk light or sign that comes up to warn motorists that someone's walking. There's a post beside the Bank of Nova Scotia which creates a blind spot in addition to the high traffic that goes through that intersection. So as mayor, I do agree we need to look at that issue from a safety standpoint and see what can be done. As far as the railings on the town bridge, I share your concern because I raised it to members of council at that time. My understanding was they were removed for snow removal purposes. What exact equipment we have now and the cost of purchasing equipment that would perhaps blow the snow off between the railing and the bridge may be the solution. But in the wintertime, it's slippery, it's icy, it's windy, and seniors do not want to have the risk of slipping and sliding out in front of a truck or a vehicle going across the bridge. So it is a valid concern there as well, and I do appreciate your comments and would suggest that, as mayor, I would have council strongly look into those issues. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Owen?
Well, like everybody else at the post office, I've not only been almost hit, I've almost hit someone. And for many and varied reasons. And we know there's a problem there. To solve that problem is mighty expensive. And it takes, as you all know, that's Highway 3. So every time you try to do something, you're dealing with the Department of Highways. And like Dave, yes, it should be something that we look at. We should really seriously figure out what is the, because it is, as that young lady, and I like to say that to her, since she's come back home, she is a young lady again, is right. The other issue about the bridge, I walk all the time. Most of you who live in town see me. I found it safer now, but not as David mentioned in the winter. The problem with the Department of Highways will tell you that put a rail up and it's very narrow. It's now very dangerous for mothers and carts. It's dangerous for anybody that meets somebody on it because it becomes a single lane. I fought for them to say, well, look, guys, offset it, put the sidewalk on one side, double-sided, and put a rail up. Simple. No, it wasn't. They said structurally or blah, blah, blah. What they did do, and most of you noticed, when they put the sidewalk back, they raised it up 4 inches. That wasn't for safety of the pedestrian other than the trucks jumping the curb. They can't jump that curb. I told them fenders are a lot further from the tires than you think. But anyway, that's what we're with. Now, how we sit down with them and get that rail or get some semblance of something back, I don't even want to see the chain or the wire there. It should have been a solid wall of some kind because you still can slip underneath it. Everybody that walked that before, remember what was there. Before they put the cable in, there was a chain, loose chain thing there. So they're just as unsafe. So it will take, and I like Mer's word, study. But we need to, something needs to be looked at because the seniors are nervous, and obviously I'm going to get nervous.
Thank you, Owen. Chris?
There must be authorities, traffic authorities, who can come and really give us some good advice as to what to do at the post office. And we've got just a myriad of crosswalks. I can't understand why we need so many crosswalks in one spot. Maybe they could be some could be eliminated, but I think that if our local traffic authority can't advise us, maybe we could get someone from the city down and see if they come up with some better solutions. I'd put a rail in. I don't know whose authority it is to put in the rail. I think it's a regional responsibility. But if it's a provincial one, we should push the Department of Transportation. If it's a regional one, I would put one in on one side at least.
Thank you, Chris.
Everyone tonight, all the candidates have mentioned our state-of-the-art recreational facility. Recently, Chester, Bridgewater, and Lunenburg have all passed healthy food policies in their recreational settings, and yet when the region of Queens had the opportunity to do so, they did not. I'm wondering if you can share with me what role you think the council has in creating environments that best support healthy and accessible food for all.
Thank you.
Okay, the order for this question is David, Owen, Chris, and Mervyn.
Thank you for the question. I would agree that healthy eating is very important. I do a fair amount of it myself. But having said that, we can all chuckle and joke over it. There is no question. Healthy eating in this world is very important. One must be cautious that your clientele, be it of all ages in Queen's Place, through a number of activities, will have a need for various foods. And you must also be considerate of the fact that what you sell returns revenue to Queen's Place. If you fill it with food that people don't want, they are not going to buy your food and you are not going to earn the revenue you need. So there is a balance. I think one should offer both to the extent that it is possible and do the best of our ability to see that people are eating healthy. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Next up is Owen.
I had the good fortune to serve on that committee, Lunenburg Queens Healthy Eating Committee. One of our arguments was simply that choice is ruled out. I also taught health, so I understand, and my wife's a home ec teacher, so calories and those things are not immune from my lifestyle at home. But in public, you have to be very cautious, and I don't do it just because David says we'd lose money, although that was some of the arguments in council. I think Nick's smiling a little bit. I'm sure he remembered the discussion about whether we bring in the policy or not. We do need a policy. The joy of it is, to answer the doctor's question, is that kids are learning to eat. We just have to wait long enough for that elementary group that's now in grade 6 that started when they're in primary to get into junior high and start to demand it. Because I was very surprised to hear young people asking for an apple or an orange. And what we said was to provide the majority of healthy food, but also provide a part of, if we could only cook them healthier, and people are, in the food sciences, are working very hard on that to try to take the fat and the calories that are ones we don't like out of the food. But that's the reason it was a split decision, and like I said, there's more than 60%, so I think we're moving in the right direction. Whether we get all the way there or not with society, we don't know. But I believe personally in personal choice. We need to educate people to make the right personal choice.
Thank you, Owen. Chris?
Thank you, Linda. I'm still actually on the District Health Authority, so I certainly have a strong bias towards the good health of our population. I personally believe that nowadays, just as you don't sell cigarettes in school, you don't sell cigarettes in hospitals, I don't think you should sell any unhealthy food in a public facility, whether it be a school, a hospital, or Queen's Place, or any other such public facility.
Thank you. Mervyn?
I think I mentioned before that Queen's Place is going through some growing pains, and it actually hasn't been open for a year yet. And I think the hope is down the road that there may be a citizens committee or a citizens board of directors. Actually, we know that we have to get the public involved, the citizenship involved in Queen's Place. But to start off with, we did look at it. It was discussed at our meetings about what we could serve, and it was 50-50. And you have to look at the economic side of it too. And I think over time, as Queen's Place develops, that there will be choices. There'll be food choices for people that want to have healthy food, and I think there'll be choices for people that don't want healthy food. And I guess a lot of times it's what you consider as healthy too. So anyway, I think it will work itself out eventually.
Thank you, Mervyn.
Let's do one from them. So this, again, is part of Queen's County Close-Up. This will be interesting. Are you for or against opening the Trestle Trail to ATVs? A simple answer for yes or no.
That's okay. The order for the answering this question will be Owen, Chris, Mervyn, then David.
Remember, they want yes or no.
If there's no yes or no to that question, there's too many parts of it. I've said many times that it's an economic driver. If you could see those people around Yarmouth County and around St. Margaret's Bay, and they had come to council and made a presentation because of the way the government sold the property off, it's not very convenient right now. I walked the trail, and I was one of the ones that said, we can accommodate. So I guess it's a little yes, but it would be no unless we meet all the things like an engineering study on the bridge. How do they get to that trestle trail from where they are? And how do they get off of it? And those are the problems that make it difficult. If we could solve those, and by the way, lots and lots of money would do that. But the plan still hasn't come to us, other than they made a presentation of possible routes, and no one's answered. I think, Merv, was it 7 or 6 questions? 6. It was 7. Lucky 7. And we put them in place, and they were told clearly to bring those answers in, and then the discussion would be full and meaningful. We haven't seen those yet, but if you ask me yes or no, I'd have to say yes from a money standpoint. The safety issues and everything else have to be talked about. I walked the trail. I worry about it. Most of you knew I tried to lead a year-round opening of that trail, and I still believe it should be done, especially for the people that live in that part of town, to shop and do groceries. So the answer wasn't a simple yes, but it's got a few, as I used to say, it's like a peach. There's a little fuzz around it. Thank you.
Thanks, Owen. Chris?
It's one of those questions like, have you stopped beating your wife?
Is that a yes or a no?
Maybe I should stop right there. I went door to door up there, and I banged on one door, and the first person, right by the trestle trail, and the resident said, oh, for goodness sake, I hope, he put it more strongly, for goodness sake, I hope you're not going to let those ATVs across the trestle trail. I went across the street and banged on the next door and said, I'm looking forward to the day that you open the trestle trail ATVs. I have talked at some length to the leadership of the ATV group. They feel that they're being stonewalled. They need a yes, they need a no. They need to know where they're going. I've committed to working with them. I don't know if there's some compromise, if there's another route we can try and get through. I think I personally need to sit down and work with the group to get a better understanding. And then if it's not practical, I will tell them no. I won't leave them dangling. And if we can find a way that accommodates the concerns of the residents who live along the old railway track and the trestle trail, and still accommodate the ATVers, well then we should work towards that. But I've got to sit down and get a better understanding of the alternatives. And I did say to them, when I'm elected mayor, this will not be my number one priority, but I will get at it within the first year.
Thank you, Chris. Mervyn?
The issue with the trestle trail is a very touchy one, but for anyone to think that anything in municipal politics is yes or no, it doesn't work that way. We say to everybody, you study things to death, but through council we did. We met with the ATV Association, and I actually attended quite a few of their meetings, not quite a few, but a few of their meetings. And we told them, and I told them at that time, answer council's questions, tell us how you can get on it, how you can get off it, how it's going to impact. And they actually hired some people that we had thought at the time we were going to do that, but they spent their time at Somerville. And I was asked just a week or so ago how I felt, the same as tonight. And I said, please, the next time you're going to expend your resources, expend them and try to answer council's questions so that we can make some kind of decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mervyn. David?
It is a good question with no simple answer, unfortunately. The railway has been going for over 20 years. Residents have become very accustomed to quiet backyards. They don't want to give them up. Having said that, the ATV group would like to get through Liverpool to connect the trails on either side. I think there is a way to do that. Whether it is the existing trail that's proposed is highly unlikely. I'm going to be right up front and tell you that residents have voiced their opposition to having a trail right through. That doesn't mean there can't be a trail around the town on municipal lands that's owned above the town well. It will take, as others have said, some discussion, some wise consideration, some options. But I do believe, over time, it can be worked out. Now, will it happen yesterday? Apparently it hasn't. I'm looking at going forward, and I can honestly tell you as mayor, I would be prepared to sit down with the ATV Association, mayor and council, and staff, and try to work through this, because there is a bonus to the area if it can be achieved. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Yeah, my name is Peter Ripple. Over the years, municipality has built up quite a construction bit of equipment. I understand we've got something like 5 excavators and other equipment. Now, I can understand that there could be a savings in that, but I wonder, do we need 5? I think when Queen's Place was being built, there was a lot of busy work moving stuff from place to place to keep people occupied. What happens with this equipment when we're not actually involved in sewer construction? How much a day does it cost to run these things? What is the net savings in having all of this gear? Also, I'm thinking that we have tax-paying contractors in this area who probably would not mind getting a little bit of the surplus work if the municipality cut down the size of the construction crew that it had, so that when there's not really too much going on, it meets the need. But when we have surplus, we can maybe give some of these tax-paying contractors a little bit of the action.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, the order for answering this question is Chris, Mervyn, David, then Owen.
Thank you, Peter. That's not a new issue. When I was mayor, it was one of the things that was discussed with us frequently. I went to the last council meeting. During that meeting, Mayor Leaf mentioned that the studies by the provincial government on 2 or 3 municipal projects have shown that there's about a 25% savings by doing the work ourselves. I didn't have a figure. When I was mayor, I knew that we were saving at least the contractor's profit. The way of looking at that is, and I think Mayor Leaf put it pretty succinctly, if you're saving 25%, you have the opportunity to do 25% more work. Now, whether we've got the right number of excavators, Peter, or not, I don't know. I certainly would look at that. You can get over-equipped if you're not careful. But yes, we'd certainly look at that. But I am supportive of having our own construction workforce. And if we need to hire extra equipment from time to time, so be it. But basically, we would have our own crew that has become pretty skilled at laying pipe and doing that kind of work. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Mervyn?
I can only echo Chris's comments, because I've been involved with the old municipality when we tendered stuff out, and I can tell you that when the west side of Milton Sewer went through and we tendered it, and it came in, they did the work, they left, and we had to do it all again. I've worked closely, over the years, I've worked closely with the guys, with the equipment and stuff, but I would like for people, when they talk about, they see a piece of equipment here, and they see a piece of equipment there, and that type of thing. Someday just take around the region, not just Liverpool, but go around the region. Go to the landfill site and see what's happening out there with the equipment and what they're doing. A new building just went up to take care of compostables. And Caledonia, the water treatment plant out there. But we are a region. It's not just Liverpool that gets the work done. Those pieces of equipment are all over the county. And as Chris stated, if you were to take and to assess the work, what we do out to tender, there would be a construction company from Halifax come in, they put the tender up, you're paying as Chris said, you're paying their profit, and they come in, they do the work, they're gone, and there's nothing left in Queens County except for that project. And our employees do fantastic work, and I would suggest that next time that they're working in town, anyone that has a concern, go see what they do. People complain a lot of times, I see a guy standing on a shovel. But when that guy's breaking that rock, which is a lot of it in Queens County, those guys have to stand there and wait, because at some point in time they have to put the pipe in the ground. So I would, before people start going on with what we have and what the equipment. We're saving tax dollars, and anyone that wants to come to council, come to Kathleen, and we can show you how your tax dollars being saved. Thank you.
Thank you, Bertrand. David?
Thank you for that question. As others have stated previously, the region of Queens does have a fair amount of equipment and is doing a lot of good work in infrastructure. The region has very skilled employees. They have been efficiently doing their job. One looks at the fact that we are employing employees and local people and paying them, whereas if it were contracted out, it would likely go to a firm outside of the county and we would lose the work and the money would be more expensive for the job. Most capital projects are funded under the gas rebates. We need to do capital work. I know we have a 5-year capital plan upcoming. In my travels around the municipality, I've probably heard at least another 5 years on top of that of capital work. So as long as the gas tax rebates keep coming from Ottawa, I'm sure the region of Queens will keep spending them on infrastructure. Do we have more equipment than we need? Possibly we do. That's dependent upon the job that's ongoing. We certainly need to look at the efficiencies of the actual operations, the budgeting, and what projects are being done and what are coming up. There may be periods of time, and there has been, where additional equipment has been rented by local operators to assist, and that's putting money in the local economy. So I think as mayor going forward, what mayor, council, and staff needs to do is to look very carefully at everything that the region is doing, including construction, and make sure that it benefits the region and is efficiently done. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Owen?
Peter, when I came on council, that was one of my first projects, was to find out this machinery, because everybody was telling me, oh, we're doing this and we're wasting that. Just one simple project to tell you about, not including all the good work at the landfill site and the experts we have in sewer and water extensions and infrastructure. Queen's Place wouldn't be opened, I would bet, at this moment, if we hadn't have had the crew already trained to step in to take the subcontractor's job that was supposed to be doing the groundwork for that site where the building was going to go, and the edge and parking lot and that sort of thing. So we were able to step in seconds to make the decision. We had the engineer, we had the superintendent, we had the machinery, and we went to work and got it done. And in fact, the architects would recommend our people to go do the job wherever they were building a building of that size and nature. And yes, we're saving a lot of money. And the biggest thing is, every one of those employees belong to us. They are us. They live here, they rent here, they pay taxes, and they pay for their groceries in the grocery store. And as Merv pointed out to you, and I think Chris mentioned the first one we did, that was an outside contractor. I think they had one person on a shovel for the first 3 weeks, and then they fired him and brought their own in, and they did a miserable job, and it was our money that went literally down the sewer. So whether we always keep looking at it, I don't know why people take this attitude that council and staff don't do their homework. The due diligence would scare you to death. It drives me to death. I go, let's go do it now. No, we have to look at this and we have to look at that. They have to be weighed on each side. And by the way, the provincial government has very stringent contract rules that have to be followed. And until they tell us that we're saving money, we're not doing it. They will not allow the project to go ahead. So you can rest assured there are safeguards in place all the time. But as I said earlier, for me, the most important thing is they're us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before I ask my question, I just want to point out one thing. I was a member of the committee that presented the business proposal to council regarding the town hall. At that time, we were told that in the lease with Mr. Hines, there is a 6-month quit clause. So as a committee, we hope to meet with the new council early in the new year to proceed with discussion on the possible reuse of the town hall. My question has to do with Pine Grove Park.
Resolute has indicated that the park is in the parcel of land that they are hoping to sell. As mayor, would you be willing to lead council in investigating the possibility of purchasing the park, even if it's over time, or having Resolute donated to the people of Queens County as a thank you for their 80 years or so of hard work at the mill, making possible the assets that they are now hoping to sell. As you know, Pine Grove presents a unique and beautiful recreational facility. It's the habitat of some rare plant species and would also lend itself to some very unique events in the future that would make both Liverpool and Queens County a destination.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, the order for answering this question is Owen, Chris, Merv, and David.
Colleen, I can only tell you what I've done personally. I called our MLA at the beginning of this whole mess and said, we've got to have Pine Grove Park. Buy it for us and give us a 99-year lease for $1. It's not the pristine, or wasn't before. When I moved here, we used to have Winter Carnival there, and there was a trailer park, there was a canteen, it was a commercial site. It's only been beautified in the last, Chris, 20 years, 25? 30, okay, with Mr. Steele and the plan. And it is beautiful, and we do want it. And yes, we're very concerned. And maybe we are going to have to make a different deal. But what I'm worried about, and you should all be worried about it, and contact your MLA. I talked to the Premier and the forestry man who's in charge of getting rid of it. And I also, when we were at UNSM in Halifax, mentioned to every minister that I saw that that's part of the deal that we as citizens really want. And we do. Why would we ever want that to go in anybody else's hands? Anyway, that's the position, but you're all going to have to make that political heat. You can bring more heat on our minister than I can. Thank you.
Thanks, Owen. Chris?
You're talking to the converted, Colleen. I built Pine Grove into a park with Dick Steele. I have cut bushes, I have planted plants, it was my goof-off spot when I worked for Bowater and I wanted to go and hide somewhere. There was always work that I could go and do at Pine Grove. I have already been in discussion, and my hope would be that it would be part of the parcel of land that the province bought at the beginning of the year before the mill closed. There was a $25 million deal for land. My hope is that Pine Grove will get folded into that. Another part of my dream was, and I nearly had it done when I was mayor, and then Bowater took us to court over the tax deal, and so wouldn't discuss it any further, but I would like to see an offshoot from the Trestle Trail into Pine Grove. We had the financing, we had permission to hang a sidewalk under the 103 so that you could come up that trail which leads into Roy's Clear. So yes, I am very, very supportive. I would turn myself inside out to do all that I can to protect Pine Grove.
Thank you, Chris. Irvin?
I really cannot say anything different. I mean, Pine Grove Park's been there as long as I have, and anything that I can do to keep Pine Grove Park will be done if I'm elected as mayor. I think we can put the pressure on the government and on our MLA and on the property owner and work with them to get Pine Grove Park. I think they realize too the asset that it is to the county. Thanks.
Thank you, Mervyn. David?
Thank you for the question, and to answer the first part, as mayor, I would be prepared to sit down with representatives of arts and culture and Sherman Hines to arrive at, hopefully, an agreement that works for all. On the Pine Grove issue, certainly Pine Grove is a jewel in South Queens. There are many residents that do utilize it. It is wonderful. And I thank Chris for his efforts earlier to make it what it is today. As far as Resolute is a 51% owner of Bowater, Mersey. The other 49% is still owned by the Washington Post. They have, through Bowater Mersey, an agreement with the Region of Queens, and I understand that Region of Queens staff are emptying garbage cans, picking up limbs and tidying up Pine Grove through the summer. To go forward, it definitely should be what it is today, and it should remain that way for eternity, in my opinion. I would encourage everyone in this room to call Vicki Conrad and express your concern on Pine Grove. As mayor, I would certainly assist council and staff to lobby the provincial government and ask them, if possible, to purchase Pine Grove as an asset for the Region of Queens. If possible, it would be nice to have Resolute donate the land to the Region of Queens. As far as purchase, I have to honestly tell you that the value may far exceed the ability beyond which taxpayers would want to support it. If the price were very reasonable, it would be something that we would all need to look at. Certainly it is a jewel. We need to keep it. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
I think second last question. There's Dr. Doucette.
Thank you, yes. I'm Al Doucette. Thank you for taking my question. Healthcare delivery in Queens is supplied by Queens General for acute care. We have home care. We have nursing home care. But I think that there's a large hole in the lack of assisted care. We do have assisted care in Bridgewater. There are 2 facilities. And a lot of my patients and friends, and in fact my mother, has had to go to Bridgewater to get assisted care. I'd like to know what kind of priority you would put on that and how you would get assisted care for us in Queens County. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. And the order for this one will be David, Owen, Chris, and then Mervyn.
Thank you for the question, Al. In my earlier remarks, I had commented on the fact that we do need assisted care living in Queens County. I think the out-migration to Lunenburg County, as you have spoken, is problematic to the population base and the economy of Queens. And I see no reason why we are not able to have similar facilities in Queens. As mayor, I would certainly encourage council and staff to pursue assisted care facilities in Queens. The more the better. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Owen.
Everybody keeps saying if I was mayor, I'm not that presumptuous, unless council agrees and we get staff and we get everybody in the community aboard. But I've made it clear going around in my campaign, we need to think 55, and I hate it, but we have to say to the end. And that includes what Al is talking about. But we do have to work very hard to find some entrepreneur or some investor that will come in. And that's going to be thanks to the efforts of the Hospital Foundation and Chris and the Building Committee. When that hospital opens, I think you'll see that there's going to be a lot of interest in us. We have a lot of old people. We're going to have a new hospital. We've got things underway for other kinds of living, and assisted living is part of it, and a big part. So you can guess that on my list it's probably 1 or 2, because I think it is that important for many of the reasons Al said. I've watched people I know and liked and talked to a lot. They're not here anymore to do that. They've gone to Bridgewater, or worse, Halifax, and be tied. They went to Kings County. I left it, they went there. I can't, but they got a room, and that's why they did. So we'll get some rooms at the end. Thank you.
Thanks, Owen. Chris?
When I was mayor before, Al, you and I worked towards getting Melville Heights to come down and established on the waterfront. One of the problems is the licensing for level 2 nursing care. I certainly would work very hard, having spent 12 years with the health authority. I know the need. You've told me about it. Others have told me about it. I think first we try and get it done through the government. But if that didn't work, and I think you all know me, if you can't get government to do it, well, then we look to the private sector and work hard and we might be able to do it just as we did Queen's General Hospital. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Mervyn.
Being at the end, you still have to agree with what your other people had to say. I think in Bridgewater, and I stand to be corrected, I think it was private investors that got involved with that type of care. And as Chris said, it has to do with government and the bids that can be provided. And I think that we're not fortunate enough to have at this point in time, to have a developer in this community that's willing to go through the hoops and do what they have to do. And those are the people that we have to attract here. We have to attract somebody that's willing to take that on, see that they can make money at the end of the day, and develop a care facility. And I think until all that comes together, I can only work, as I said before, with people that I know and contractors and that type of thing, to bring somebody here that would actually see that they can make a dollar by looking after people. And I think that it has to come from the private sector.
Mark Sapp. I'm sorry for making everybody stay. I thought if I waited long enough, somebody might ask my question, so I wouldn't have to. What my question is regarding is transparency in municipal government. I think everybody knows that making decisions is a very tough thing, and there's only so much money to go around. But in the past, budget deliberations have been done in camera, behind closed doors. My question is the candidate's position on holding budget deliberations in public meetings like many other municipal units have moved towards. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the order for answering the last question before the wrap-up will be Mervyn, David, Owen, and Chris.
I really don't, I shouldn't say I don't understand the question. I've been involved in municipal politics for 22 years now. And as far as transparency, we hold open council meetings, and I think the biggest contingent that I've had, or that has been in the council chamber in those years, were the ATV people looking to go across the trestle trail. When budgets are set, there are programs that we'd love to do, and as everyone knows, once you say something and it gets out there that this could happen, word spreads and it has to happen. When we leave our in-camera budget sessions, we hope that we've come up with what we can supply the taxpayer with the dollars that are available, and not raise anybody's hopes that all these great things are going to happen, because as you know now, and in future budget sessions, things are going to be really, really tight, and you have to be careful of where the money goes and discuss that before the public, and hopefully present the public with something that they know the council has discussed and at least is bringing forward as a project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mervyn. David?
Arriving at a balance between an open municipal government and one that is not so open is very difficult. Council, from my understanding, needs to deal with litigation, land purchase deals, and staff issues behind the scenes. And I don't expect that will ever change according to the legislation. Budget issues become more problematic in that they stretch on over a longer period of time. It's not just a short meeting process. It can go on for likely up to a month or more. To have a totally open process during budget deliberations is difficult, but open council is available to the public. There is nothing to say that they all have to be held through the day when people are not available if they're working. But for someone to sit entirely through budget deliberations is going to be very difficult. So all I can tell you is that I do support open municipal government. I do support budget deliberations being open to the public. To the extent that people can attend every meeting and every portion of budget is difficult, but certainly willing to try. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Owen?
Well, it's definitely not a secret society. If you want to ask me, I would have answered your questions to the best of my ability. I go find the reporter, I find a staff member. Many of the things that happen are done because of legislation, as Merv pointed out. But the way I'm going to look at opening government is to meet with you folks, just like I do in District 3. sit down with you in your areas. We might have to reduce them and make you travel a little bit, but I'm not going to make you come into a council chamber that's not built for a crowd. I'm going to ask you where you live in that area and get things on paper and figure it out amongst ourselves. Folks, there's only 12,000 of us. I believe in this. I don't believe in this at all. At all. I might talk that way, I might have coached that way, but my players, to a man and girl, will tell you that I always asked their input and I always listened. We may not solve the problem and we may not answer your particular problem, but at least you'll know that you've had input into the decision-making part. It may make that we're going to meet council at night. Most of the work is done in committee of the whole anyway, but at least you get a chance. But I still think the SAP report, the original one that said we would have community advisory things, I think that needs a second strong look.
Thank you, Owen. And the last response to the last question, Chris.
I think the point is well made that there's a lot of developing of ideas, trading of ideas, backing off from ideas during the setting of the budget. And that's either done in my day through the Finance Committee or through a committee of the whole. It's very difficult. I'm not going to say, yes, we would do that all in public. I think it would be very time-consuming. In some instances, in years gone by, in my day, we did it off-site because it was just easier to get down and work in that kind of an environment. When I was mayor, I used to go, in the first couple of years of my tenure, I went around with quarterly meetings all around the region of Queens, to Mill Village, to Liverpool, to Caledonia, and to Port Mattoon. People stopped coming to those meetings. We used to make a presentation of how we were doing financially and any of the outstanding issues. Gradually, the public stopped being interested, and they realized that we were working on their behalf and probably doing quite a good job. I then would attend, we had in those days Able Cable, and now we have QCCR. But in those days, I would go on Able Cable and open mic once a month. As mayor, I would do that same kind of thing again. And so if anybody had problems, had concerns, they could certainly voice them. And if you do it across a television or radio, you don't have to identify yourself. And so you shouldn't be embarrassed about asking the questions. I will answer any question that anybody asks me. Thank you.
I think it's very difficult for me. I guess maybe when I was planning for tonight, I didn't plan for a wrap-up. But I guess maybe the best thing to do is speak from your heart and say how much this county means to me and can mean more to me as a mayor. I've had the opportunity to look at what we have for assets. We have our rivers, and we still have our forests and that we have to protect. But what we didn't do here tonight is talk about the rest of the region. We have a fantastic hall in Greenfield that they built by themselves. We have lovely community in North Queens, and there's nobody here asked the question tonight about it. And under the first leadership of Chris and the excellent leadership of Mayor Leaf for the last 12 years, we've developed a region. It's not just the town of Liverpool, it's the county of Queens and the region of Queens. And there are things that we have to do out there. There's fire halls that have to be built. There's more sewers that have to go in, and that type of thing. Our recreation facilities are second to none, and I think we've proven over the time that we're known by the world, and especially for Chris and this fantastic facility that he keeps going. So I can only say as mayor, I fully intend to keep those resources going and keep making those resources known to the rest of the county and the world, and hopefully bring some more economic development to Queens County. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight. It's certainly good to be able to get out in front of a crowd and explain what you're all about and let people judge you. It's sometimes not easy when you're on this side of the mic. Many of my friends and colleagues know what I have done over the years. I write a reasonably good letter. I'm able to to calculate figures and work with budgets. I certainly, hopefully tonight, have proven that I can speak in front of an audience. I've tried. There are many things in the county, of which it is an entirely large county from North Queens to South Queens. Everyone has their issues. Regional council must be considerate of all areas of the county and must look at building infrastructure and supporting development in all areas. We can do that. Positively, we can move forward in this county. We can become what we need to be, a vibrant economy. Certainly, my expectation as mayor would be to build on the things and successes that have been done previously. I certainly do feel we can achieve that. I've worked on committees, ministerially appointed committees, as an example, the Tobiatic Wilderness Area Management Plan for 2.5 years. We developed a management plan to support wildlife, fish, habitat, and it's the only management plan for any of the 30-plus wilderness areas in Nova Scotia. It was an arduous exercise. I think we succeeded. That's just one of the things that we have positively going for us in the region of Queens. So, to wrap it up, it's a little different experience for those to look at me and say, okay, it's a different David Dagley tonight than I'm used to. Hopefully I've met your test and you'll look favorably upon my abilities in the future. Thank you.
When I came here at the beginning of the evening, I felt like a Christian going to the Lions. You made the evening go much more easily, and thank you. I will stand on my record as the mayor of the most successful amalgamation in Nova Scotia, as mayor of the region of Queens, who invested with a council that invested in all areas of the region, not like the 5-year capital budget that was passed at the last council meeting, which doesn't spend one penny in North Queens. I will work hard to develop the philosophy of how can we help and put to rest the culture of no, and I will give my all to support the initiatives that are coming forward from the Chamber of Commerce, the Revitalization Committee, and all such groups that are going to help to make the region of Queens prosperous again. Thank you.
As I said earlier, it'll take all of us, and I don't think there's anybody here that couldn't say how much they love where they live. It takes somebody from outside to move in to realize the jewel we have. And if you ever think for 1 minute that I'd put any of that at risk by favoring any one area or any one person, forget that. My faith is in everybody. Thank you for the reference to the Christian of the Lions, Chris. It made me think that every once in a while we do need to bring up that we have a lot to be thankful for in this county. So day one, I'll go to work. I didn't take this job because it's going to help my family or that it's going to help me. I did it because I honestly think that I can help our county and keep it where it is, which is above the middle of the road, on its way to success, not on its way to failure. They keep trying to tell us in Halifax we've lost it. We have not lost it. We just now know exactly where we are. Now we've got to get the path even clearer to where we want to go, and I'd like to be the one to help you do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.